they're going to be sorry they were ever born.
Who?
All of them.
What is up, Raider Nation? It is the Raider D here on the Raider D podcast, and I got my boy Josh, aka the GOAT, over on Instagram and YouTube and TikTok all over the place. What is up, my man? Say what's up to the Raider Nation.
Got to find something to do on the Sundays without football, man. You know, there's not much to besides play video games.
I'm telling you, man, I cannot wait for the season to start. I can't wait for the draft. It's going to be pretty exciting. So I think that everything this year, all the changes that we've made, I feel good about it. I know I feel like that every year, but how are you feeling right now with the coaching staff, the GM, Smith is the quarterback, all of that?
Every thought I want to say hated Carroll. Like I used to go to USC games all the time too. So it's like every thought I hate Carroll. I'm like, no, I hate the fact he's going to be gone in 3 years. If that dude was 60, I'd be like, oh my God, we're going to have a dynasty. But it does feel like grown-ups are in charge now. It feels like we're going to be steered the right direction. The only thing I'm worried about is 4 years down the road. And I think most people are, but they're not thinking about it now because Raider fans don't necessarily think into the future. We think like, hey, right now. So that's the only real concern I have is down the road. Next year is going to be a building year. I don't expect us to make the playoffs, maybe 8-9 wins. If we make the playoffs, great. But Vegas still has us at 6.5 games. So it's the same as it was last year. I think year 2 is where we're going to see some growth. I think year 2, we actually make a playoff run. We'll get to the playoffs, and I've been getting eaten alive on X about Geno Smith. So I'm not very high on him. I've never been high on him. Never really liked him. A lot of us Raider fans roasted him when we played him in 2022. But now we're all hell Geno. So, I think we're just trying to make the best out of a situation. We were in a horrible situation the past couple of years. So we're making the best out of it. And I think that's what the Raiders are trying to do, save face, because they don't want last year, the year before, to happen all over again.
Yeah. What do you think about Jack Jones being cut today?
I'm not a fan of Jack Jones. I'll tell you some stuff off air. I'm not going to put the dirty laundry out, but not a fan of him. Not a fan of his attitude or his demeanor. He reminds me of, oh my God, I had the guy's name and I forgot. Marshawn's cousin that played for the Chiefs. Fuck, what was his name? That's going to bother me now. I had it in my head because that was my main comparison. He's like the Temu version of him. Great plays, a lot of great plays, but then he'll have plays and games where he's completely gone. So, and you saw him get burnt time and time again. So I was like, I knew he wasn't going to really be there for Pete Carroll. He said he wanted to play for him, because Carroll can coach him up, but he doesn't fit Carroll's mold. Not a great tackler, not a great athlete, not great size. So right off the bat, if you follow like RAS scores and things like that, his athleticism is leaps and bounds below than all the other corners we have. I'm like, he's the odd man out. There's no way he's playing nickel. He's not equipped for it. So I was like, he's gone, and he's gone now. So I was like, it is what it is. I think they're going to let the rookies play.
So especially with him being gone now, we lost Nate Hobbs. So there's 2 starters off of the roster. Jacorian Bennett should be healthy, ready to go. That dude made leaps and bounds in his play style, but injury is a concern with him. Plus size is a little bit of concern, but he plays like the size doesn't matter. So that's cool. Who do you think is going to step up this year? You think DCam's going to be the guy?
Yeah, Richardson played a lot last year and he was forced into it. It was his rookie year. I don't think people realize cornerback and safety is some of the hardest positions to evaluate in the NFL. And more often than not, coaches will tell you that. It's hard to find shutdown corners. And so you get guys based off of their athleticism or what you can coach up. Richardson has all that. He can cover. He's fast. He's strong enough. He's big enough. So it's up to Pete Carroll to put him in situations where he's going to be able to use his skill set. And he kind of has the same skill set as Jacorian. They're not, great catchers of the ball. They're not going to make amazing diving catches, but they're going to lock guys down and they're not going to let passes be completed. So I think he makes a leap. I think Stokes is going to be coached up too as well. I kind of did a piece about Stokes. Stokes was the man in college. Didn't really develop well in NFL. We saw him playing Green Bay. He wasn't that good, but he's a first-round talent. Besides Patrick Surtain, he was the number 1 corner coming out of college and in the SEC. Like it was either him or Surtain. That was it. That's how high of a caliber people saw him as. It just didn't develop very well. So I think Pete's going to get his hands on him and turn him into a good corner. I think he'll start. by the season's over, if not the beginning of the season, if we don't draft somebody.
Yeah, I mean, and we've had a couple of cornerbacks come in for private workouts. We've had Benjamin Morrison, Will Johnson from Michigan. I would love to see Will Johnson fall to the second round. I don't think he will, but hopefully that injury will scare off some teams and he'll slide to the second. And if the Raiders can grab him at the second, I would be all for that. I mean, if we picked him in the first, I wouldn't be mad about it, but the injury is a bit of a concern for me. Who do you think? I mean, there's a lot of speculation going on. Number 6 overall draft pick. Who do you think the Raiders go with? What's your guess?
So I think Will Johnson's out at number 6, just because of his injuries. He didn't do the pro day, didn't do the combine. It's been lingering around. That's going to push teams off. I don't think it's going to push him the second round because he's too much of a talent. I think he's going to be a late first rounder, maybe mid first rounder. Somebody's going to nab him. If you've looked at PFF, they've adjusted for that. He's falling to 12 to 15 on a routine basis. I think that's where he goes. We might trade back and get him. He is the prototype of what you want as a corner. I think he fits Carroll's scheme and Graham's scheme really well, and he's a lockdown, shutdown corner. If not, then obviously the obvious answer is G.O.A.T. You're going with G.O.A.T. I think it's silly to draft a running back in the first round like that high, because you're saying, okay, this guy's going to be Saquon. That's what you're saying, drafting that guy at 6. He's going to be Saquon Barkley. So if you get that, amazing. But if you get something that's even a little bit lesser than that, you're going to get that protectivity in the second round. So I really hope they go defense, but I don't see them going into the offseason, without a plan for Geno Smith to help him out.
Yeah, I mean, that's one of the things. I mean, when you look at the running backs so far that have come in, Ashton Jeanty is one of the 2. We got Caleb Johnson from Iowa who's come in for a workout. I would be ecstatic with Jeanty just because when I watch him play, and when you watch the actual game tape, not just the highlights, even when he's not getting big yards and he's not breaking tackles like crazy, he's still uber productive.
Oh, yeah.
And for me, I just think that when you got a guy like Ashton Jeanty, and a lot of people knock him because he played at Boise State, and I've heard in the comment section so many times of, yeah, well, he didn't play good against Penn State, and so that proves everything you need. What do you mean he didn't play well? He had over 100 yards, over 22 receiving yards, and he broke 19 tackles.
Yeah, he was like breaking 2 or 3 tackles. He was getting hit, a yard behind the line of scrimmage and still getting yards. He's making the first guy miss there. I'm like, no. His team was out there.
Right.
He was the best player on the field.
Penn State has the 7th best defense in college football last year, 9th best rushing defense. So, of course, he's not going to put up 300 yards in that game. Yeah. But the point is, how many running backs were able to put up the numbers that he put up that are out of the Big 12 or the SEC against Penn State last year? Nobody.
None. Yeah, none.
So I don't think that, I would never say draft a quarterback or draft a running back at pick number 6. I would never do it. But when I watch this dude play, I'm literally having flashbacks of my game cheat code for getting Barry Sanders on my Madden NFL. Like 99s all the way across the board. I think he's going to be a generational running back that just doesn't come around too often if he has a long and healthy career. If he has 6 good years in the NFL of that level of production, he could be seeing the Hall of Fame in 15, 20 years from now.
Oh yeah.
The downside, like you said, is he gets to the NFL if he's just a good running back, but not elite, not Hall of Fame caliber in the NFL. Then you wasted a 6th round draft pick because you could have gotten the same production in the second round. So I agree with that.
People were writing off Saquon Barkley up until last year. I called him a generational talent. And he's like, oh, he has injury history. I'm like, if you watch him play, he is better, bigger, faster, stronger, and better with the ball than anybody on the field at just about any given time. And I've said that over and over again. And up until last year, people were arguing with me. They're not arguing with me anymore about that. I'm like, he's a generational running back. He's one of those guys that's just a little bit better than everybody else, just like Derrick Henry. He's just a little bit better than what else is on the field. And
I was so pissed that the Raiders didn't get Derrick Henry last year. I was so
got, oh man. But who we pass up for him? Was it Jihad Ward. I think we drafted before him a pick or two. I'm almost
Yeah,
positive. I'll have to look it up. Yeah, we passed
I
up on
think it
Derrick Henry in the
was.
draft too, by the way.
Yeah.
Uh,
Well, I mean,
no,
we passed
and
up on everybody.
yeah,
Lamar
I
Jackson.
think he'll be a generational running back if he stays healthy. If we go the offensive route and we get a running back in the first, I don't think we're touching wide receiver in the second, probably third or fourth. We got to get linemen. Like we got to get somebody. It's just people want to hype up our line. We gave up the fourth most sacks, fifth, whatever it was, 50 sacks in the NFL. Our run block was horrible. Only two of our running backs were at the league average, Abdullah and McCormick, for yards before contact. So our running backs were getting hit behind the line of scrimmage. I think Mattinson's yard before contact was like a yard, and the NFL average is like 2.5. So he's getting hit a yard faster than anybody else in the NFL. Same with White. You can blame that on them, but at the same time, our run blocking was absolutely atrocious. Our guards, Glaze will probably be coached that, but we need some help on the offensive line because if we go into that with a rookie running back and Geno Smith is going to be running for his life, and Genty is going to get hit behind the line of scrimmage on a routine basis.
Yeah, and I think that when it comes to guards, I've always been of the school of thought that you're going to find starting level, even Pro Bowl guards in the second and third round. You can get lucky in the fourth round with them, but I think that if the Raiders were to go best player available at pick number 6 and Genty sitting there, you take him. Now you have, Raheem Mostert and Genty. That's going to be a pretty dynamic duo at running back. And then Geno Smith doesn't have to win the game every single time with his arm because you have a dynamic rush game. And then you go in the second round and you grab an elite guard. And then you go in the third round and you grab yourself another one, right? And now you have JPJ, who should be starting center this year. He is much better at center than he is at guard.
We all hope they do. We all hope they start him at center, man.
I mean, the fact that they even announced that he's gonna be in a competition for guard and center just to me boggles my mind, because why did you let Andre James go? Because JPJ is 10,000 times better. So
he's a natural center.
Yeah, he is a natural center. That is his position. That is where he is dominant. When he played at center, he was ranked top 5 in the NFL. When he played at guard, he was like below 50% of the guards in the NFL.
He was average.
Yeah. So we need a true guard on the right and the left. I think Meredith is serviceable. I think Parham is okay. But we definitely need one more big playmaker, because I think if DJ Glaze takes
I trust Glaze. I trust Glaze, by the way. Yeah, I trust him.
If he takes another step, that dude's going to be a Pro Bowler, because to do what he did last year as a rookie, I was impressed. It wasn't perfect, right? But it was impressive that he was able to come in as a third-round draft pick, and people were saying that we drafted him too high, and be able to take that starting job and just run with it and do a good job. Not great yet, but he showed flashes of how he can be great. So I think if another year under his belt, some more coaching, more experience, if he takes another step in his career, he could be a Pro Bowler this year or next year.
Yeah.
Colton Miller. Colton Miller played like absolute garbage the first half of the season. And I told everybody, watch Colton Miller is going to play like garbage for the first half of the season, because this dude has not taken a snap in 9 months?
Yeah.
For the big boys, they can't have that much time off and just bounce back, right? And so it showed. But then he started to get back into shape, get back into rhythm, knock the rust off, and he played really good to finish out the season. What do you think is the longevity of Colton Miller with the Raiders?
He has a couple years left. In the draft, unless they draft a first-round tackle, they're probably not going to get somebody year one that's better than him. When he's healthy and playing well, he's 30 tackle range, that's a good tackle. He's better than half, not as good as half. That's okay. That you don't need top 5 linemen in every position. So I think he has a couple years left with us. Unless we're drafting a high round tackle, I don't think you're going to find somebody that's better than him. Glaze is going to develop. I trust in Glaze. I tell people to watch the tape against him and TJ Watt. He gave up no pressures, no sacks against TJ Watt. He did. That was his best game of his career, of his rookie year. And it's just, I was just like, okay, this guy can actually play. That's what he, my internet go out?
It jumped out for just a minute.
That's what he was known for. It's pass blocking. Okay. Yeah. Pop back in. I live in the boonies. So, but so with him, I think that's a real possibility. As far as Miller, I think we'll draft a later round tackle this year or next year. Somebody to develop, same thing, third, fourth round. We could do that next year. But for me, if we took a running back in the first and took a guard in the second, I would not be upset with that. I think we're too high in the second round to get somebody like Jackson. Like he might fall to the third, but he'll probably go mid-second. So drafting a guard in the second round is a possibility. Booker might be there. The guy from North Dakota State, Zabel, might be there. But I mean, it's not a sexy pick, but it's a safe pick. Hey, you're going to get a day one starter. That's probably going to be better than what we have. And it's going to help solidify that line next to the JPJ. Even on the line with Tate Rutledge from Georgia. Like I would love him in the third or fourth round. That dude is nasty.
He
has some skill sets that you need to coach. Don't get me wrong, off position, out of position, certain plays, but he's just one of those guys you're like, that dude's fucking mean. Like he's a mean guard. Put him out, coach him up,
what
and
you
let him
want.
people. Yeah, he's just a mean dude. He's nasty. And
because look at Max Crosby. Max Crosby's a fourth round draft pick coming to the Raiders. Nobody expects him to do anything. He's going to be a rotational player. But he has that nasty streak on the field and that I'm not going to quit. I'm going to just keep going. And so for me, when you get a guy, and this is how I see JPJ. This is why I love that dude so much on this offensive line. And I wish we had 4 more guys just like him, because you don't have to be the most athletic. You don't have to be the biggest guy. You don't have to have the biggest wingspan. You have to have the attitude. And if they have the attitude and the drive and the motor, you can coach everything else into it. Yeah. And I would love to have him. I think it would just be fantastic for the Raiders.
And he's only rated as the third or fourth round. So the value versus the motor that you get with that guy, he has the size, has the speed. I think he's going to be very good in the NFL. Somebody's going to nab him. Probably somebody's going to reach a little bit higher for him because of, what he's done in his career. And SEC players usually transfer pretty well. They're pretty well coached in Georgia. So, I would like them to go that route. Let them get in there and compete, and he'll probably take somebody's starting job.
So as far as defense goes, obviously we lost some starters. I wasn't too upset about it. I was upset about Nate Hobbs. I know he's injury prone, but when that dude is not injury prone, he is a very good nickel corner. But I mean, he got the bag, so we'll see if he can actually earn it by staying healthy for an entire season. But everybody else, I expected them to be gone. I really didn't think Jack Jones would be gone, but it kind of makes sense now that, he doesn't fit the mold of the new coach. And he was brought here by Antonio Pierce. That was his, like his adopted son and stuff. And so now, Coach Pierce is gone. Jack Jones is gone. Do you think that the Raiders right now, with the defense that we have, do you think that we should have gone more aggressive in the free agency to replace more players than we did? Or are you satisfied with what we did?
A little bit more aggressive. I'd say one more player, not overly aggressive. I would say a cornerback or a linebacker. And you could have got one in the $10 to $15 million range. I understand why they'd have it. We're like, oh my God, the Raiders are being fiscally responsible. What the hell's going on? Like, we're all just confused. Like, wait, what? What? Like, we're not used to this. So, and then, I'm like, okay, what's going on? So the minute free agency start, I saw all the, a lot of the big guys get off. So I was like, let me go pull up all the contracts. So I'm going to see who's up. And I was like, okay, this makes sense. We need a good $30 to $40 million in reserve for the next 2 years. We got Bowers going to contract, Myers, Kuntz is going to need a contract. Whatever quarterback that we sign, we might have to negotiate with them, something like that. If we sign one in free agency again or to the draft, then you have Chen who's going to need a contract. We're going to have to sign new linebackers again because they're on 1 to 2 year deals. So I was like, okay, we need some money in reserve to play with because we got a lot of guys that are expiring and want to keep that core. So I was like, all right, I understand why they're not doing it. I would have loved to get another cornerback or linebacker, I think that would have just elevated our defense that much more. We're relying on a lot of boom or bust players this year. We're relying on a lot of guys that are on 1-year deals. Prove it. You're probably not going to re-sign with us, but you're going to get your bag somewhere else. So if we rely on those guys and they do well, great. He's going to look like an evil genius. If they flop, that's going to be a problem for defense. Right now, our weakness is our second corner, our second linebacker. That is overall our weakness, and it's up to them if they're going to address it in the draft or not.
I mean, so as far as linebackers go, we have some young guys, right? I'm very high on Amari Gaynor, the Ferrari. I was shocked that he didn't get drafted, that he went undrafted, and he really played well in the preseason. I would love to see that guy get out on the field in the regular season and see what he can really do, because that's a tackling dude. I mean, he hits hard, and he's like a missile out there. Another young guy I want to see get his shot is a guy I've had on this program, which is Trey Taylor. Great kid, great head on his shoulders, got hurt. I mean, the injury bug was just nuts last year, so it kind of cost him, because he probably could have got out on the field in some regular season games with all the injuries that we had at the safety position. But I'm excited to see him get out there again. So we do have some young guys that a lot of people don't talk about that I think are going to surprise some people this year. I think you're going to see some more of them out on the field, and I think that hopefully they're going
we have guys that need coaching. That's what we have. We have a lot of I'd say a lot of potential, and they meet Carroll's MO. Big, athletic, strong. Gaynor is fast. He's a strong linebacker, maybe a little bit undersized, but he has an eye for the ball, and he can tackle well. That's what Pete Carroll wants. He wants guys that aren't going to make stupid mistakes and they can be around the ball. They may not be the biggest or the fastest, the most athletic. He's like, but you're coachable and you're athletic enough. Like, he doesn't like – to me, it looks like he doesn't like slow guys. If you look at Seattle, like, they had guys like Bobby Wagner, just – he was fast as hell when he played. So he wants guys that are athletic. That's why I was like, one of these, when we hired Carroll, I'm like, oh, we're going to go get Simmons. Like, I know a lot of people don't like him, but I was like, in my head, I'm like, Simmons fits his scheme 1,000%, kind of a tweener. But I could really see them coaching some of the younger guys that are more athletic to be those linebackers. If we roll in with Roberts as our third down linebacker, we're going to have some issues. Like, we are going to have some real problems with him covering. That's one of the things I worry about. Not every linebacker is perfect. I know Spillane wasn't perfect either, but Roberts as linebacker 1 against the run he's elite. Like, he can stop the run. There's no question about that. It's in coverage where he's going to have some issues.
So how do you feel as far as the Raiders roster is set right now? Obviously things are going to change with the draft, and we're going to get some young faces and stuff, but how do you feel our chances are of making a playoff? I know you said that maybe 8-9 games this year. Vegas has us at like 6.5.
Yeah, that was 6.5. And it will change because of the draft. Maybe it'll go up a half or 1. But more often than not, you got to remember, all 32 teams draft. So they're doing it based off the current roster, and they're like, all right, did you adjust yourself? Did you get better? All right, maybe we'll pull a half win, put a half win in. So it's going to be in the 6.5 to 7.5 range.
Do you think Patrick Graham is the answer at defensive coordinator? Because I feel like it's hit and miss with him. Sometimes our defense looks fantastic, and other times you're scratching your head like, what the hell?
Yeah, it is. And I've talked about that on several occasions. This is the first time he's had a really good defense. He had one good year in Miami. In New York, it was a disaster. So it is very hit or miss. He's had so many – and you want consistency. So when they re-signed Graham, I wasn't unhappy, but I'm like, the defense needs consistency. They need the same guy there year after year coaching that scheme to get the guys in the scheme, because you get a new coordinator every 2 years, you're going to have issues. So he is the best coach for our defense right now, period. There's no question about that. They don't have to learn a new scheme. They don't really have to do anything. Pete's going to have his imprint and his, MO. He's like, I'm a Super Bowl champ. You're going to listen to me a little bit. But from that standpoint, I think everybody likes Graham. They all want to play for Graham. They buy into what he does, and that translates on the field. We had a top 15 defense last year with all these injuries and our best player out. So, and you saw a lot of guys come on, and you saw a lot of 1-year guys. And I just laughed. I was laughing about this because my buddies were talking. We're like, man, we got some of the hottest free agents in the NFL this year. How did we only win 4 games?
Yeah.
Like
Everybody
was
wanted
going,
our defense,
yeah, everyone
but
in our
we
defense.
only won 4 games.
You know why? Because they see how they play when they're coached well. They're like, hey, we believe in our coaches, because every team see things through that hazy vision, those drunk goggles. Like, hey, we can coach this guy. We're just as good a coach as Patrick Graham. We can get that out of him. We can get more out of him. And then they sign him, and more often than not, it doesn't work. But they see how these guys play when they're coached well. So I think that's really what you see. Our run defense needs to improve. I think with a different cornerback out there besides Jack Jones, our pass defense will be better. I think people were too in love with him because of the flashy plays. He would have really good plays, and then he would just suck for the rest of the game. And
Yeah.
I put that on X today. I'm like, you guys know Jack Jones led the NFL in giving up touchdown receptions last year, and people are like, wait, what? I'm like, yeah, he gave up 10 touchdowns in a single year, which is stupid high. I was like, he gets burnt in man coverage on a routine basis.
The QB rating against him was over 108.
So that's I don't. How do I say this? The QB rating to me, sometimes it can be a little funky, because if guys aren't targeted a lot, then it's going to be high if they get a couple of touchdowns and no picks. Because there's guys that just don't intercept the ball. That's just not their thing. Jack Jones does, but the problem is, he got 3 picks, but he gave up 10 touchdowns. So that's why his quarterback rating was so high. So you got to look at the whole aspect. He gave up top 10 yards or something like that. I can't remember what the stats are. I don't have them in front of me. But he was worse in the NFL in multiple categories as a cover cornerback. So to me, I'm like, you know what? He's replaceable. People watched film on him. They saw what he bites on, and then he would do it over and over again. And it just didn't work. Somebody will coach him up. He's a good player. I think he's a starting caliber corner, but I just don't think he fit Pete Carroll's scheme.
So I don't know. Did you get to attend any of the practices last year?
Yeah, I went to a bunch of them. Practices and the camps.
Yeah, I didn't get to go to the camp, but I did get to go to the practice. I'm surprised we didn't run into each other at the practice. But I got this overall feeling last year when I went to the practice. I was like, this doesn't feel like football. It kind of feels, I don't know, it's unorganized. It didn't feel right. Like, I didn't walk away with that, like, yeah, these guys are going to be ready. And, I'm no expert in how an NFL team should practice or anything like that, but it just didn't feel right to me. Did you get the same feeling? And
we discussed that. So I'm trying. I don't want to ruffle his feathers, but it felt like the players were friends with the coach, and they got to say and do what they wanted. That's not how you run a business. You can't be friends with somebody that you're the boss of. They have to respect you. And people reached out about Carroll, and his ex-players like, you're going to fucking love this guy. You're going to love him. He lets you express yourself. He lets you have fun. But when it comes to business, it's business. And he's going to put you in the right spot. He's going to make sure you're doing the right thing. And he's going to make sure you're in the right place and you're going to excel. So I think that's where AP lacked, because he had the guys motivated, but it didn't translate on the field because he was continuously getting out-coached. If he would have mixed that with good coaching, I think he would have excelled. But he didn't. He had all the hype and he had all the players behind him, but he couldn't back it up with the X's and O's because he didn't have experience. So, I was one of the first people. I was like, yeah, he's going to get fired. But if he would have been a coordinator for a while, different position, coaches, things like that, before he was a head coach, probably would have been way more successful. So you can't really blame the guy who was throwing in. It was the best option at the time, and we wanted him, so we rode with it. But the adults are running the team now, so you feel like, okay, there's more of a seriousness right now. There's more of a MO, like, hey, we're gonna win. We're not dealing with his BS. We're not the Raiders. Like, this is Spytek, who's a Brady guy. This is Tom Brady, who's not a Raider. This is Pete Carroll, who's USC and Seahawks. These guys aren't Raider fans. They're not associated with the Raiders prior. They're like, hey, we're here to win. This is a business. This is my job. So, which I can respect. That's perfectly fine to me. A coach or a player does not have to be a Raider fan to be a good player on our team or be a good coach.
Yeah, because I kind of felt the same way last year, where it was like I wanted Harbaugh, but if we're not going to get Harbaugh, then I want the guy who had the team fired up at the end of a disastrous year in Antonio Pearson. Let's see what he can do. But in the back of my head, it was like, being a head coach in the NFL, like being the CEO of a multi-billion-dollar corporation, you better know what you're doing,
Yeah.
or you're going to ruin things. And so I felt kind of bad now. I haven't heard of him getting another job anywhere else at this moment. Hopefully he does. I think it would have been better for him. Obviously hindsight's always 2020, but I think it would have been better for him to turn down the job and say, you know what, I'm not ready to be a head coach yet. And go and get a defensive. I bet he could have got a defensive coordinator position somewhere.
Oh yeah,
Right?
1,000%. He could have got one somewhere.
Yeah.
But I mean, we're like, hey, we're going to give you millions of dollars if you coach a team. You're like, oh shit,
Yeah.
And then all the ESPN articles, AP turns down Raider job. AP turns down head coaching job.
Yeah.
So and
But
they would
even then, I think that maybe I would have went to him and said, listen, Mark, just say that you chose somebody else and let me go be a defensive coordinator somewhere else. Don't put it out there that I turned it down. I just, being honest with you, I'm just not ready to be a head coach. And I think he maybe bought into the hype himself that we all put on him at the end of the season, because I know I was cheering on AP because we beat the Chiefs on Christmas Day. So, of course, you're going to do it, right? So I kind of feel bad for him. But at the same time, I now have a different sense. And I can't wait because we're going to be down there. So we should run into each other this time. We'll have to hook up, make sure we go out and get some lunch or something.
I'm always there.
But yeah, we'll be there, and I'm excited to see a practice that is run in a more professional way, because since I started the channel and since the channel has grown so much, I've made some connections, and the people that I talk to with the Raiders have told me that the sense that they got is the same thing that I felt, which is the players were running the show. Antonio Pierce wasn't really running anything, and there was a lot of confusion and a lot of discontentment with some of the assistant coaches because of that.
Yeah.
And so I think that now we have such a great core of experienced, vetted, proven head coach, offensive coordinator, Patrick Graham coming back for another year. You've kept some rising stars like a Robbie Leonard, who I think will be a defensive coordinator very shortly, maybe in the next year or 2 years.
Year or two, yep. He's gone.
And so for me, I'm much more excited. I'm always that optimistic guy. Last year I said we're going to win 14 games and make the playoffs.
I got grilled because I said we're going to win 8 max. 8 or 9.
Bro, at least I had a 4 in the number. So I was half right. 1, 4, 14, 1, 4. Okay, we got 4.
I get grilled every year. And so what was it? So last year I said 8, we won because we had injuries. The past 2 years I've been within a win, and I said, hey, we're going to have this record or this record. And, they've been losing records. And people just, you're a fake fan. You're this. I'm like, dude, look what we compete against and look at our schedule. We play some really good teams. If things do not go our way, it's going to be a rough season. And that's exactly what happened last year and the year before. So we have a hard season. Going to the East Coast, 3 times? I mean, it's just, that's rough. That's rough.
This is an interesting one from Unknown Raider guy says, Travis Hunter being available at pick number 6. Do you buy into that? Because I don't.
It's happening. So I love numbers and analytics. So I'll pull up all the PFF drafts. It's happening 1 out of 10. I think it's 10% he falls, but there's no reason for him to fall. Somebody's going to nap him 2 or 3.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, you got to. That dude is unreal. Speaking of that, do you think a team lets him play 2 positions? If he comes to the Raiders?
You can't. I mean, being a NFL offensive or defensive player is a full-time job. You have to learn the entire scheme and practice for that singular thing. I don't think he could play both ways, but he won't play both ways as a starter. He's going to play one position or the other as a rotational guy, as a gimmick, something along those lines. Like you would have, I don't want to say Ohtani, but Ohtani as a reliever and a hitter, he's more valuable to a team as a DH usually. They don't want him to get hurt. So you'd see Hunter maybe on nickel, plays, maybe goal line, things like that, if he wants to play wide receiver, and vice versa if he plays cornerback. So Charles Woodson was an amazing athlete. He didn't do too much in the NFL as a wide receiver. You saw
Yeah.
Dion a little bit too as well. Same thing. Didn't do that much because it's a full-time job being a defensive player. So if he wants to play cornerback, wide receiver, I can see using his athleticism here and there. But do you want your best cornerback getting cracked by a 250-pound linebacker? I wouldn't.
That's exactly what I've been saying.
Yeah. And because of that,
there's just no way. What happens if you let him play both sides and then he gets injured? You just lost your starting wide receiver and your starting corner. So there's no way anybody's going
to. And then the PR circus for that, who they're going to blame, the coaches, the staff, the head coach, like that's a death sentence. You just don't do it. Yeah, I wouldn't even let that guy punt or kick return if he wants to because he's so athletic. I just like, no, you're not doing that. That's injury waiting to happen.
Yeah, we got guys and rookies and second string guys that are going to return that punt. We need
like we got people just as fast, not as good as athletes, but just as fast that we don't care if they get hurt. No, let them do it.
Yeah, we got Dylan Laube. Let him run it back. So yeah, I think that I don't know. I'm going out on a limb. I think the Raiders win between 10 and 11 games this year. Am I crazy?
I always say the first year people got to buy into the system. We're going to play better at the end of the year. So it depends on how our schedule is in the year. If we play the good teams at the beginning, that is a possibility. I'd say 10 is probably our cap. I think we're more of an 8 or 9 because you got to get our system in. You got to get our new head coach. There's going to be a growing and learning curve for everybody, including Geno Smith, and then any rookies that we're coaching up. At the end of the year, we'll be playing a lot better. And that's how you should be, playing your best football, in December and January. But for me, it does depend if Bo Nix does well. It depends if he, progresses as a quarterback. And it all depends what the Chargers do in year 2. People forget how good our division is and how good our coaches are. We got 3 legit Hall of Fame coaches, including Carroll coaching now in our division. It's going to be rough. It's going to be rough the first couple of years. So, I think Bo Nix probably has a sophomore slump. So I think we can overtake Denver and maybe get that wild card spot.
That would be awesome, man, because I want to see the Raiders get back to that winning form that we had in 2000. Because that's pretty much the last time we ever had a dominant team, right? 2000, 2001. And just haven't been able to do it since then. So I think it's definitely time. We're due for it. Can Geno Smith be the quarterback that gets us over the hump? I think he can, because I don't think you have to be an elite quarterback in the NFL if you have a complete team. So now the question is, can we get a complete team? And the offseason so far for me has been a bit of a letdown. It wasn't really, I don't know, it wasn't sexy enough for me.
Yeah, it wasn't flashy at all.
Yeah. So I know it made sense. I know all the moves that they made physical, economical sense. It made sense for the system. Everything just made sense. But man, I would have liked to see the Raiders make a big splash and get a T. Higgins or something like that. And it just didn't happen. So now we're going into the season and we have some really good pieces on the chessboard, but it's not a complete set.
No, that's why I keep saying, and people are mad about this. I'm like, trade back, get a couple picks. So your trade value, if you ever looked up the Jimmy Johnson system, Jimmy Johnson has a graph. He's the one that invented it for trade value for draft picks, and they still use it to this day. And so for our pick at 6, we'd be able to trade back to the mid-first and get a second and a third, most likely. If we did that, hey, that's another mid-second round pick that's going to be a starter for us. That means we're going to get 3 starters. I would love to see them do that because you can address the running back position. You can address the wide receiver position if you want to, cornerback, linebacker, O-line, whatever you want. You're going to get starting caliber players at all 3 of those picks. So I would really like to see that. And again, that all depends. Do you think Genty's generational, or do you go with somebody like Tompkins, maybe another different running back in the 3rd round? To me, I think that'd be the most appropriate, but I'm not the GM. So It's going to be hard for a GM to pass up Genty, to be honest. I mean, that's one of those
Yeah.
things that sticks with your career. And Spytek's a new GM, like he might play it safe.
Because I mean, it's one of those situations where you pass on Genty and you trade back, you get some second and third round picks, and those guys may be starters. They have a decent career, but then Genty goes to the Hall of Fame. You'll forever be known as the guy who didn't draft the Hall of Fame running back, who probably wins 2 or 3 Super Bowls and scores 15 touchdowns out of all 2 or 3 of them. So that is a big issue. So outside of Ashton Genty, who is a superstar already, who do you like at the running back the most? Is it a Judkins? Is it Travion Henderson? Who is your favorite guy? Omarion Hampton?
So Hampton, we don't have a shot at getting. So I wouldn't really consider him. I think he's going to be good. To me, it's Junkins. Junkins over Thompson. Junkins is big, fast, strong, no injuries, explosive. He is everything you want in a running back, and it's nuts to me he's going to be a second-round pick. That just shows how devalued the running back position is going to be this year. I would draft him in a heartbeat in the second round, and that's why I said, hey, trade back in the first, or you draft an elite defender. You can get a Young or somebody like that. Or I mean, we don't really need a defensive tackle in Graham, but you can get Byron Young, you can get Will Johnson. You can trade back later in the first and get a Jihad Campbell, which is we need an elite linebacker too. Get one of those players and still address the need in running back in the second, and then go get something else, get another toy to play with, an offensive lineman, maybe a guy at Ohio State, or you can even get, cornerback, wide receiver. You can get whatever you want, another lineman. It's just there's so many things to play with when you come to that position. I understand the third round pick for Geno, but that would have been another starter. So we traded a third for Geno, which it's a good trade. But at the same time, we still have so many holes. So I would love to see them trade back and just eat draft picks and just take a bunch of players and put them in places.
Well, if you look at Pete Carroll's modus operandi in Seattle, I mean, all of his superstars were second, third, and fourth round picks.
Yep. Yeah.
So for him,
Earl Thomas is only one that was a first round. Yeah.
Yeah. So he's known for that. Now, is Spytek known for that? We'll have to wait and see, because this is his first year as being a GM. You can't really judge a GM who's been an assistant, because at the end of the day, whoever his boss was made all those main decisions. So we'll have to see what his philosophy is. That being said, I kind of get the feeling of how this free agency went so far, that's kind of what we might end up doing. We very well may end up just doing what you said and just trade back and gather some more second and third round draft picks, because that would be the smart thing to do. And that's what Spytek and Carroll have done so far. They've done the smart moves, right?
Yeah.
Despite the fact that it's not sexy.
It's not, but like you have people like Demetrius Knight, who's going to be second or third round pick. You have Carson out of UCLA. He's going to be a starting linebacker in the NFL for probably 8 years. He's a killer. And again, they're talking about like, this is one of the deepest drafts you've seen in NFL history. Like your second and third round guys are going to be Pro Bowlers. They're going to be NFL starters. And so you see somebody like Carson in the second round, you're like, why wouldn't you trade back a little bit, still get a position of need that you really want in the first round, and then nab something else in the second, and then still get another starter, for a defensive position in the second too with that pick you grab. And then you probably get another fourth round pick. So you get another rotational guy that can come into camp and compete. So it's just, to me, it makes more sense to do that. But again, do you want to pass on Genty if he falls to us? If that's going to be the real issue, if Genty and Sanders are both there, like that's going to be half a Raider Nation is going to be mad. Half a Raider Nation is going to be happy.
And that leads into the next point. So a lot of draft boards have Shedeur Sanders falling.
Yeah.
And not going to the Giants and being available at pick number 6. What do the Raiders do? Well, my understanding is that Mark Davis still wants Sanders, but that is not what John Spytek wants, and that is not what Pete Carroll wants. Do you think that the Raiders should draft him? And because in my opinion, Geno Smith is my comp for Sanders.
Yeah, that's his comp. That's who he is. He's probably going to be Geno Smith with the longer career of starting. He's gonna. And the funniest thing, did you see the interview with Chase Daniels the other day? He said the funniest thing about Geno Smith, and I was like, you know what? That's 1,000% true. He's like, Geno's not going to win you games, but he's not going to lose you games. And I was like, yeah, that sounds about right. Like he's not going to fuck things up, but he's not going to go out there and just blow a team out and dominate and win you a game when it has to be won by the quarterback position. And I was like, that's a fair comparison. Like he's just going to go out there and play. He's going to give you decent enough numbers. He's not going to screw up on the field. He's able to be coached, but he's not going to win you a game over an elite quarterback or elite defense here and there. So, that's a fair comparison. I think taking Sanders at 6, I'm like, shit, dude. I think he's going to fall, because of certain issues and things like that with Dion and that kind of stuff. So I could see the Saints drafting him. So it'd break Wi-Fi Willie's heart. You got some guys really in contention. You got the Saints in contention. You got the Dolphins in contention. And then you got the Steelers. There's a kind of 3 teams where you could fall to. Same thing with Jackson Dart. I think Jackson Dart's going to be a Steeler next year. So, I think they're going to nab him in the first round.
I think that if the Raiders are sitting there at 6 and you have Ashton Genty, who the Cowboys really want at pick 12, I think, then you have, if you have Shedeur Sanders sitting there at pick 6, it gives the Raiders a lot of leverage to then trade back and maybe even pick up a first-round draft pick next year if you get the right team who's desperate enough for Shedeur Sanders.
Yeah, I don't think they'll trade another. If they trade another first, then it's going to be probably nothing else. If the Raiders believe in this draft class, then they're going to trade for that second and third, or the second. They're going to swap first to get a second and third pick. That's what I prefer, so they can stockpile this year and get these guys in that they want this year. So if they do trade from like 6, say they go from 6 to 12, at 12, you're probably still going to have both corners available. Brown and Johnson probably will be available still. So, or they might throw a curveball and take Hampton. You never know. So, but if they trade back, I think that kind of admits like, hey, in our first pick in the second round, we're going to go get a running back. We're going to get the best running back available because that's the comp value of that running back. So that's a beast.
Would it be like if you go and you draft Shedeur Sanders? So everybody caves to what Mark Davis wants and they draft Shedeur Sanders. What do you do with him? Do you sit him for 3 years?
He's not going to sit for 3 years. That's the problem. He doesn't. I don't think he has the demeanor to do that.
Yeah.
It's just he doesn't. I don't care what anybody says. That guy wants to start from day one. He wants to learn on the job. There's no way he's going to sit behind Geno Smith for 3 years. So the minute we sign the extension, we do have an out in 2. But at the same time, why would you waste a first-round pick, have him sit for 2 years when you're trying to win now, and that third year, Pete Carroll's going to have 1 foot out the door and probably only coach a 4th year and call it a day.
Yeah. That's exactly what I feel too. Like there are still people saying that the Raiders should draft Shedeur Sanders, and I've been saying it even before we got Geno Smith that I don't think Shedeur Sanders is the best quarterback in this draft. I don't think he's even the second best quarterback in this draft. I think I would love Cam Ward.
I think he
has such a high upside.
Yeah, everybody wants Cam Ward.
Yeah.
Yeah. The gap between Cam Ward and Sanders is bigger than the gap between Sanders and Dart. But the thing is, you look at coachability, you look at body style, you look at athleticism. Sanders is more accurate. Dart has an NFL body. He has NFL speed. He's bigger, faster, stronger, and has a stronger arm. That's what you can coach up. It sounds so silly when you say it. You can teach somebody how to throw. You look at somebody like Monroe, and I know a lot of guys don't like him. I'm like, he has every athletic trait in the world, just like Jalen Hurts did coming in the NFL, but couldn't throw for shit. If you ever watch tape on Josh Allen the first 2 years, that guy could not throw. He had to be coached on how to throw in the NFL. But he had the size, he had the athletic ability, he had the arm. And so like, hey, we can mold this guy into an NFL quarterback. I think they're going to do the same thing, with Dart or Monroe. He has more athletic ability than Sanders. Both of them do. So I think that's really going to affect Sanders' draft status.
Do you think Jalen Milroe falls to the second or third round? Because he did come in for a visit with the Raiders.
Yeah, I would say mid-second, most likely. Somebody team that's established and has an older quarterback might go grab him.
Because that's what I was thinking. If you're going to grab a quarterback after signing Geno Smith to the extension, it would make more sense that you would grab a project than a guy who believes he's the best quarterback and needs to start day one,
Yeah.
right? I think you could tell Jalen, listen, you're not ready yet, but we're gonna draft you. We're gonna sit you behind this wily veteran. We're gonna coach you up, and you're gonna be the number two guy. If something happens to him, you're gonna get some playing time. But we want you to sit for at least 1 year, maybe 2 years, and let's get you ready for the NFL. And then when he's ready, oh my God, the dude
Yeah.
is a quarterback who runs a 4.340.
He's going to be the biggest, fastest guy on the field. And it'd be
Yeah.
like, oh, we don't need another running back. I'm like, dude, look. And I remember somebody said he had 4 interceptions his last game. I was like, go watch Lamar Jackson's last game in college. And
Yeah.
like, why? I'm like, he threw 4 picks. I was like, that's literally why his draft stock fell, because he couldn't throw.
Yeah.
And then for fun, I was like, now go watch Michael Vick. And I was like, Michael Vick was drafted based off his athletic ability alone. Vick
Yeah.
had, I don't know, like 8 or 9 touchdown passes his final season. Like, it was nothing. He didn't throw the ball. He ran all the time.
Yeah.
I don't even think he started all the games. So it's the ability that's there. They want people they can coach up. I think Sanders is probably one of the more NFL ready quarterbacks, but he has a lower ceiling than everybody else too. So NFL teams
And that's
see that.
yeah, that's the problem that I see with Sanders is yes, he could start day one, but is he going to win you a Super Bowl? I don't see it. I mean, look at how he got spanked by BYU. I mean, that's horrible. Because I mean, I live in Utah and I hate BYU, so I was hoping he would crush him.
The Mormons got him. No,
Yeah,
it's just I think he's a good, he can be a day one starter, but yeah, I think he has a lower ceiling than other quarterbacks. I said that from the beginning. I was like, if we draft Sanders, I think we'll be a competitive team for years, but I don't think we'll ever get over that hump. That'll be one of the problems. That's why people are going in front of him, and people are going to want to draft developmental players behind him, because you see somebody like, if Monroe can throw the ball, and it sounds silly, like you always say, he can't throw the ball, but he can be taught fundamentals. You can't teach speed. You can't teach athleticism. You can't teach NFL body. Those are things you are inherently gifted from. You cannot teach those. So somebody like Monroe has an NFL body. Somebody like Dart has an NFL body. Dart is like a shorter version of Josh Allen. He runs over people, which is stupid, but it works. He can scramble and put his head down and get yards. So, and teams see that.
yeah. I mean, in regards to Jalen Milroe, I know a lot of people are like, oh, we don't need a running back, a quarterback, and all this. Go and watch his interview. I think it was with ESPN, one of their shows, where he sat down for an interview with them. The dude graduated his undergraduate a year early and was working on his master's degree. Right, this dude is not just a jock. He is very
Smart,
intelligent.
yeah.
It's just the way that they decided to utilize him at Alabama. They wanted him to run the ball most of the time. They wanted him to win games with his legs. And because that's kind of their stick that they do down there. They want their quarterback to run. So looks like we lost the GOAT. We got spinning. Hold on. Technical difficulties, people. Technical difficulties. Let's see if we can get him back here. While that's spinning, I'll just finish my thought here, and that is, guys, Jalen Milroe is more than just a guy who can run with the ball. He is very, very intelligent. I think that under the right coaching, the right offensive coordinator like a Chip Kelly, he could really excel in the NFL. And I will be ecstatic if the Raiders get him in the second round. If we're going to do that, to me it doesn't make sense that the Raiders wouldn't do it if that they're going to bring him in for a personal workout. Let me see. I lost the GOAT. See if it comes back up. Looks like his internet's having some problems, so we'll see what happens. I told him just tap back in with the same link. But here's the thing, guys. If the Raiders brought in Jalen Milroe for a private workout, and we only get 30 of these, so you're not going to waste them on players you're not actually interested in. To me, it makes perfect sense for the Raiders to draft him if he is available in the second round. How do you guys feel about that? Do you think that the Raiders, if he is available, that they should bring him in? I'm with it. I'm with it all day. I think it makes perfect sense. But we do have some issues, right? We have some issues now that we have lost Nate Hobbs. We have lost Moreg. We have lost Jack Jones. Secondary is in a bit of a pickle, but we do have some young guys that we drafted for a reason. DeCamarion Richardson, it's time for you to shine. I think that he's going to be good this year, just like, we've had other guys in the past where they struggled in the first round or in their first year in the NFL, but then they were able to pick it up in their second year.
Downfall.
Oh, you're good.
Country. My internet's going out right now.
Bro, I'm on Starlink in the middle of the desert. I am 45 minutes from civilization, so I feel you.
Oh my god, let me see.
But fortunately, we have Starlink, because if we didn't have Starlink, I would not be able to do this show at all.
Oh wow.
But yeah, so like I was saying, I just think that if Jalen Milroe is available in the second round, it's no brainer. You pick him up because he's a guy that you can sit back and just like, yeah, you're going to sit for 2 years. You're going to learn the system. You got Chip Kelly. He's going to teach you everything you need to know. He's going to make you a great quarterback. And then when it's time for you to shine, you're going to get in there and you're going to shine. You're going to outshine everybody because you're more athletic than everybody.
Yeah. That's one of the things when you trade back. And I kind of brought that up too. Trade back. And then with that extra pick, you can go nab him. And I would be okay with that. You're like, hey, now we got the quarterback of now. We got our franchise guy. We're going to try in the future. We're going to develop him, not throw him to the wolves. And then from there, we're going to, actually fill these positions in need. We're going to give him a great starting line. We're going to give him a running back because that's the best friend. And then we're going to give him Brock Bowers too. So to me, that is setting somebody up for success because Geno is 35 years old. He's probably not going to be here past his contract, if you're being realistic.
And why would you? You brought him in to win now, and understanding that he is at the best point of his career, it's only going to go downhill from here, right? We don't want a 42-year-old black version of Aaron Rodgers, right? We just don't want that. You come in, play for 3 years. Hopefully we can make some playoffs with you. Hopefully we can make a run at a Super Bowl. That would be fantastic. But we realize by the end of your contract, you're going to be pushing 39 years old.
Yeah.
So your career is pretty much over at that point. You can hold on and drag it out, and you can go on some spiritual retreats and do some yoga and all that stuff. It's not going to make you a better quarterback. Just like Aaron Rodgers is not a good quarterback anymore.
No.
He's just not.
Somebody said trade AOC. Nobody's going to want AOC. Nobody's going to trade for him. I hate to break it to you.
I don't think that you would have any trade value for him, but I'll say this. I'm glad Aiden O'Connell is on the team for this reason. One thing that has plagued the Raiders for years is we had Derek Carr. If Derek Carr went down, we had nobody. Nothing. Yeah. If Geno Smith goes down, AOC can get in there and he can handle business. He's not flashy. He's not going to win you a bunch of games. But kind of like Geno Smith, he himself isn't usually going to cost you the game either. He has. I have to take that back. He did lose the KC game last year.
Let's be honest. He's probably an elite backup. Like if you're being serious, he's a high level backup.
He's good.
If he played an entire year, he would probably have 15 to 20 touchdowns, maybe 10, 15 interceptions, and 3,500 yards. So, like, he can move the chains, move the ball, throw touchdowns. He just can't do it on a consistent basis. So, having him as a backup is not a bad thing. People are like,
Yeah.
oh, we should move on from him. I'm like, they're not letting him go till his contract's done. That'd be stupid. You have
Yeah,
a
why would
high-level
you?
backup for next to nothing.
Yeah, he's on a rookie scale contract, and he was drafted in what, third, fourth round,
Fourth, yeah.
right? So
Fourth,
he's
yeah.
not getting, he's getting paid peanuts compared to a starting level quarterback in the NFL. So you definitely keep him. You draft the Milroe if you can in the second round, and you got Geno Smith. There's your plan. There is your succession plan. It's not going to be AOC. AOC is your backup guy. And then you're going to develop Jalen Milroe because the upside of him is astronomical. And if he doesn't pan out, okay, it's not a big deal. You didn't draft him 6th overall. You didn't draft him number 1 overall and he didn't pan out. A lot of teams have done that. We did it with Jamarcus Russell. Yeah. So if you spend a second round on a quarterback and he doesn't pan out, okay, no big deal. But I just don't see how a guy who is athletic as he is not being productive. I just can't see how, the Eagles go and win with Jalen Hurts a Super Bowl because they had a complete team all the way around him. And if the Raiders can't do that with Jalen Milroe, if we put a complete team around him, I mean, we're doing something wrong.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, like I said, it feels like the grown-ups are in charge. It's going to take a few years to build the team. That's why I said next year is going to be a learning curve. If we win 9 or 10 games, I'm like, hey, that's awesome. That's more than we probably should have won. Year 2 is where I expect us to take that leap. Year 2 and year 3, I expect us to be competitive. Hopefully, year 2 or year 3, we actually get a playoff win. That's Geno Smith's hump. He's only 0-1. He lost the 1 year with Pete Carroll in 22. So that's something he needs to do to solidify his career is actually get a playoff win.
Yeah. And I think it would be great if he can do that for the Raiders. I don't know if we'll actually be able to do that. I agree with you. This year, I don't have nearly as high expectations. I learned my lesson last year. So I tamped it down a little bit from 14 wins to 10 wins. I think we can get 10, but I do believe that it is going to depend a lot on the draft. If we nail the draft and we get starters that are actually playing at a high level their first year, then we can win 8, 9, 10 games and maybe squeak into a wild card game. Finally, before we wrap up, just want to get your opinion on this. I read an article yesterday that the NFL is now considering going 18 games. What do you think about that?
Are they taking away a preseason game, I'm guessing?
Yeah.
I heard some rumbling about that. I mean, it's a money grab. That's all it is. Every game is going to be higher TV contracts, higher viewership, more sponsorships, more ads. If you talk to the players, they're not going to want it. You talk to the players, like they don't want turf, they want grass. So the NFL claims it's about player safety, but it's not. So it's just a money grab to me. I mean, it's great. We're going to have an extra week of football. At the same time, it's going to be extremely hard for a team to be consistent over 18 games. If you increase the NFL season, I could really see people going the NBA route a little bit more. Like, hey, we're gonna take the next 2 weeks off. Like, we're gonna chill at the end of the season. If you really, you have that position solidified, which is difficult in the NFL because there's so few games. But if you have like the wild card locked up, you're like, hey, we're gonna be a 5th seed. Like, regardless of what happens, like we're gonna chill. We're not going to start our starters. We're going to let everybody rest. So I could see that happening. You saw it with Denver. They got into the playoffs because of it. So like that's the downfall of that. But I mean, it's extra week of football, which is cool for us. But I feel the players' pain going through that struggle for another week. They don't want to do that. They're going to make the same amount of money regardless.
Yeah, and that's my worry is you add another week to it. We've seen how many injuries that we had last year. If they keep expanding it and making it longer, I mean, by the end of the season, are you even going to have the same team out there? Even if you're fighting for a position, so you have to get everybody out there because you're fighting for a playoff spot. but then you're missing your quarterback because he got injured last week, and you're missing, your starting running back, your starting wide receiver, your defensive end. You're missing a lot of key pieces because we're just extending this out too long. My opinion on it is it's a bad idea. As a fan, I love it because it's more football, but I also understand that the more that you do it, the more that you're going to decimate teams. And I've just seen the Raiders get decimated too many times with injuries. I mean, I still have PTSD when Derek Carr broke his leg as we were going into the playoffs the week before. A game that we were up, he should have been pulled out. He shouldn't even been playing. But I knew right then and there, like, well, that's it, because we don't have a backup quarterback. And then our backup quarterback got a concussion, so he wasn't even able to play against Houston. So we had the backup to the backup as our starting quarterback. I was like, oh God, this is
like, you're gonna enjoy this freebie. Move on.
Yeah. So anyway, man, I appreciate you so much for being here. Raider Nation, as always, appreciate you guys being here. It's been a lot of fun. Brother, we're going to have to do this again. And then, we got to meet up in Vegas, bro, during these practices, because we'll be out there this year as well. So we'll have to get some stuff done out there.
All right, man. Sounds good. Thanks for having me on. Appreciate it, dude.
Absolutely, brother. All right, Raider Nation, you guys know how we end this stream each and every single time. Raiders just win, baby.